It started with one decision. A 145% tariff. Then came silence, no more orders, no more tankers. China, once the world's largest buyer of American natural gas, slammed the door shut. As containers pile up in Chinese ports and USA exporters scramble for alternatives, a storm is brewing at the heart of global trade. LNG shipments halted. Billion-dollar contracts cancelled. Factories idle. Workers worry. Is this just another run in the US-China trade battle? Or the first true signs of a deeper economic unraveling? In this video, we go beyond the headlines, into real data, policy decisions, and expert analysis, to uncover what's really happening between the world's two largest economies. Because the truth might not be what the internet tells you. On February 2, 2025, the global trade map was redrawn in a single sentence. With a stroke of his pen, Donald Trump reimposed sweeping tariffs, 145% across the board, on all Chinese imports. The move, meant to reclaim American leverage, sent shockwaves through international markets. It wasn't just symbolic. According to UBS, in the following weeks, US importers began freezing or canceling nearly two-thirds of scheduled Chinese orders. Furniture, semiconductors, appliances, even agricultural equipment, were pulled from shipping manifests. Chinese companies, many of them mid-size manufacturers in provinces like Guangdong and Zhejiang, suddenly found their spring production lines empty. Some cut staff. Others shut down operations entirely. And this wasn't just a trade tactic. It was political. Trump's re-election campaign leaned heavily on restoring trade power and punishing what he called China's years of economic manipulation. But when giants clash, the fallout spreads far. The American retail and energy sectors felt the tremor immediately. And for Beijing, the retaliation was already in motion. 4 days after the USA tariffs landed, Beijing responded, with precision. On February 6, 2025, China officially suspended all imports of liquefied natural gas, LNG, from the United States. No transition period. No negotiation. Used, closed. This wasn't just symbolic. China had been America's largest LNG growth customer in Asia. Dozens of billion-dollar contracts, once considered stable pillars of USA energy expansion, were now effectively worthless overnight. Tankers already en route were diverted to Europe and South Asia. But those markets were smaller, less profitable, and already saturated. LNG companies on the Gulf Coast, many with new infrastructure built specifically for Chinese demand, faced immediate financial stress. Behind closed doors, energy executives and lawmakers scrambled. Some called it an economic ambush. Others, a logical counterpunch. For Beijing, the message was clear: if Washington hits where it hurts, China will strike where it counts, in long-term strategic energy. Trade wars rarely end in victory, they leave scars. And this time, the wounds are deep, on both sides. In China, the numbers are staggering. UBS and Goldman Sachs now forecast that Chinese exports to the USA could plunge by up to two-thirds in the coming months. That's not just a dip, it's an economic shockwave. An estimated 20 million jobs, mostly in manufacturing and coastal logistics, hang in the balance. In provinces like Guangdong, Jiangsu, and Zhejiang, factories once buzzing with production for American retailers are now eerily quiet. Assembly lines are suspended. Workers have been furloughed, some without pay, others indefinitely laid off. And the story isn't much brighter in America. USA LNG exporters, once riding high on a clean energy boom, are facing cancelled orders, stalled expansions, and billions in stranded investments. Facilities built with long-term Chinese contracts in mind are now operating at a fraction of capacity. Gulf Coast energy workers, engineers, ship crews, and technicians are experiencing the harshest downturn since 2020. Some projects in Texas and Louisiana are being mothballed just months after opening. But this goes beyond job losses. China's central planners are now expecting 2025 GDP growth to fall below 4.5%, far beneath their 5% target. Meanwhile, in the USA, Wall Street is already pricing in volatility in energy and shipping sectors. What began as a trade maneuver has now triggered a systemic contraction, one that could spread through credit markets, regional employment, and long-term supply chains across both nations. The painful truth? No one is walking away unscathed. When the economic pressure began to squeeze, China didn't wait. It did what it has always done in moments of uncertainty: it centralized, stimulated, and strategized. Within weeks, Beijing unleashed a 2 trillion yuan stimulus package aimed at shoring up infrastructure, consumer spending, and critical tech sectors. And that may be just the beginning. Analysts expect another 1.5 trillion yen in follow-up injections. Roads, railways, and smart city projects are suddenly back in the spotlight. They go? Not just to revive internal demand, but to project confidence both to domestic investors and a watching world. But money alone can't fix severed trade ties. That's why Chinese manufacturers have begun moving operations offshore, to Vietnam, Cambodia, Indonesia, looking to bypass USA tariffs through third-party production. It's a familiar strategy. But this time, Washington saw it coming. New rules under the Extended Tariff Network Act now target USA imports that contain Chinese origin materials, even if assembled abroad. In other words, the loopholes are closing. Meanwhile, foreign investors are quietly pulling back. A record $60 billion in capital outflows left China in Q1 2025. And the yuan? It's under pressure, flirting with its weakest level since 2019. There is also a political cost. Younger Chinese workers, already frustrated by slow wage growth and limited opportunity, are seeing their job prospects dim further. Even as official media promotes resilience, online sentiment tells a different story: muted anger, rising anxiety, and a growing loss of faith in economic certainty. Beijing still has levers to pull, but even in a tightly controlled system, there are limits. When trade is frozen, and confidence slips, no amount of stimulus can fully stop the bleed. Scroll through your feed, and the verdict seems unanimous: China is collapsing. Dozens of videos, millions of views, and countless headlines screaming, bankruptcy, collapse, and economic doomsday, punto. But it is the reality: China is struggling, yes. But collapsing? That's not what the data says. Let's break it down. China's GDP is slowing, now forecast at 4.5% for 2025, below target, but far from recession. Its foreign exchange reserves remain above $3 trillion. And while exports to the USA have plunged, Beijing is rapidly expanding trade with partners in Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. So why the online panic? Part of it is the algorithm. Apocalyptic content drives clicks. Titles like collapse and bankruptcy generate engagement. But oversimplifying a $17 trillion economy is not just inaccurate, it's irresponsible. Another reason? Western political narratives. Amplifying China's fall plays into certain policy and media strategies. But when you listen to real economists, they don't use words like collapse. They say recalibration, deleveraging, and geopolitical exposure. Yes, there is capital flight. Yes, youth unemployment is a serious problem. But this isn't a 1997 Thailand or 2008 Iceland. This is the second largest economy in the world with powerful tools still at its disposal. In short, China is bleeding, but not broken. And understanding that nuance might be the most important step toward predicting what comes next. After months of tit-for-tat tariffs, energy retaliation, and vanishing trade flows, one thing is clear: this isn't just a trade war, it's a long game. The United States has made its move: sweeping tariffs, halted contracts, economic isolation. China has responded: LNG cutoffs, capital controls, stimulus injections. But beyond the headlines, both sides are calculating, waiting, watching. This isn't about collapsing economies. It's about who bends first under pressure. Will it be the American energy sector, squeezed by vanishing Chinese demand? Or will it be Beijing's industrial machine, losing access to its most profitable consumer? And let's not forget the silent player in all of this, Time. Every day this conflict continues, global investors hesitate. Supply chains fracture. Uncertainty spreads. And while leaders on both sides speak boldly on TV, workers at the bottom of the chain, dockhands, factory technicians, freight operators, are the ones feeling the daily cost of brinkmanship. So who will blink first? The answer may not come with a press conference, but with a quiet policy shift, a silent concession, or perhaps a global ripple effect that forces both to recalibrate. One thing's for sure: the longer the game continues, the more we all pay. What do you think? Will the USA or China blink first? Drop your thoughts below, we read every comment.